I'm Katrina, and this is Tare, and today we are talking about pressure canning. So if you have not seen the first lesson in this series, go ahead and click the link up here. That will take you to the first lesson, which is overview and supplies. Second lesson is safety. Third lesson is water bath canning, and this is the fourth lesson, pressure canning. So pressure canning, a lot of people, there's going to be a little repeat in this just so people have a full story if they only watch this video. So pressure canning, a lot of people are afraid to do. And that comes with somewhat valid fear based in history. So historically, pressure canners were not as advanced as they are today, and sometimes they blew their top. So you'll hear about old stories of, you know, a pressure canner, it blew up and the top went through the ceiling, you know, or someone got hurt or injured or maybe even killed. That is very unlikely to happen with today's technologies. So we have safety in all, there are safety elements built into every single pressure canner now. If you are going to get a good deal on a really old pressure canner, just don't do it, okay? Trust the science that has gone into this, trust time, trust people who have learned over time to make better canners. So pressure, there's a lot of pressure, okay? You want to do the pressure for your altitude, and that might be 10 pounds of pressure, like is, you know, it's the case for me, usually. I mean, always so far. I haven't found anything that told me to do higher. But 10 pounds of pressure for me, you could be doing 15 pounds of pressure. That's a lot of pressure to be putting on anything. So I think you have a right to be wary, and you have a right to that concern. However, the science shows that these are safer now. They're safe. I don't even know of any cases of recent history of them, you know, blowing up. So now that you hopefully are okay with the safety of it, we're going to talk about what kind you want. Now, I have an All-American canner. I don't remember the number, but I have an All-American canner. It fits 2 levels of pints or 1 level of quarts. Okay. If I were to redo this, I would have gotten the one that stacks double of the quarts, because sometimes I want to do bone broth and I have to wait and do a lot of time. So depending on the size, there's lots of different sizes out there, both All-American and Presto. Those are the 2 that I know about. I know there is a third one out there that is electronic. That has been approved by FDA. I think it's the FDA. I think I said USDA earlier, but it has been approved by it has been approved to use. However, we all know you have a smartphone, how many updates it needs, and then it goes bonkers, and then it needs an update because something weird happened. We all have computers that kind of get out of whack and need updates and all of this. We have, you know, even our electronic thermometers can get uncalibrated. You have to recalibrate. So there's lots of things that can go wrong with an electric system. So personally, I don't recommend that. I know that people do it. I don't want to chance my health and my life to a failure in electricity. That is my personal preference. So I will not be discussing that further. And I won't be discussing that really at all. So that does exist. There is one that is approved. There are more that say they are, that say they can, but they're not actually approved. So if you're going to go that route, do your own research and make sure that you are comfortable with the risk you are accepting for yourself and your family. So, and that goes with anything, but I don't want to accept that risk. So, like I said, I have All-American. This is the more expensive kind. It is also more sturdy. It's aluminum. And like this base is one piece of aluminum that has been like drilled out. Like you can see on the bottom, there's the swirl from drilling out. So it's one piece of aluminum. The top is another piece, and then it cuts together with these connectors and these little tie downs, I guess. So once you look at, so what you need to consider is size. So if you're just going to do a few jars at a time, you don't need a big one. And I believe both Presto and All American have smaller varieties that are just like for pints, or maybe one row of quarts. You can see how tall this is comparatively. So like, there you go. So once you've decided how big a canner you want, you need to look at what's available, and there's online, there's in stores. All American, I don't know any place that they are in stores. Presto I've seen in stores, but All American definitely is online. Presto's online too in many places. But next you want to know, do I want to rely on a dial gauge or a pressure regulator? A pressure regulator, we also call that a jiggler. So if you get one that you're going to have to rely on the pressure dial gauge, that should be calibrated every single year. So every single year you bring it to your extension office and have it recalibrated. I don't like that idea because that means at some point when you're canning it could be wrong, right? And that also brings up the point that if this goes wrong, the electronic one definitely can go wrong, right? You're welcome to do that. That is completely fine. That's what people have done, and been very successful at it. However, if you get one with a pressure regulator weight, a jiggler, then you know for sure that this weighs the same no matter where you are, and no matter how long you've had it, anything like that. So if the dial gauge goes bad, this is still good. And I like, redundancies in what I do. I like the assurances that what I do is going to be safe every single time. So I go with this. And you can see on here, hopefully you can see, it says 5, 10, and 15. That's the hole that goes over the vent. Okay? So there is your introduction. I am going to split this pressure canning one into 2 videos because I know it's going to be longer if we actually go through the process of pressure canning, because you do need to know more. Anyway, so I prefer to have the jiggler, and you can use the dial gauge as a guide. So especially when you're done and you want the pressure to release before you open this or before you take this off, I use the dial gauge to see that. If it's gone down to 0, then it's good. So another thing before you get started, every time you want to take off the lid, and this right here is is a vent that steam will come out. That's where this goes on. Okay, that's how it's regulated. And because we know steam is going to be coming out of here, you just look at it and look through it and make sure you can see light every time. That's a safety thing, okay? Every time you can, before you put the lid on, just make sure that nothing's clogging this. Nothing should be clogging it. I've never had anything clog it, but I still check it. Also make sure that your plug for your emergency release is in there. Now, because I have an All-American canner and I don't have a Presto, I'm not going to be showing a Presto, but the same principles apply. Presto also has these features. And you can also get a jiggler for Presto. So it looks different than this one, but it exists. So hopefully I've covered enough that you understand why you would or would not get certain pressure canners. And once you've made that decision, or maybe you have one already, you can look at it and say, okay, this looks good, or look at it and say, oh boy, I need to get a new one. You can make those decisions and purchase one, or thrift one, or use the one that you have. But those are things to consider, is to not use an old one. Know if you have one that does not have a weight and it only has a gauge, that you take that to your extension office and have it calibrated. And not all extension offices have the capability to do that. I've never looked where I am because I don't have need for that, but the extension office is where you would go to do that. Another thing to note is pressure canning takes a long time, okay? Water bath canning, you just have to wait for the water to boil and you're good. Pressure canning, you have to wait for the water to boil, which only gets filled up, a couple inches, and then it boils in here, and then it steams, and then you have to wait for the steam to come out this vent. And once it's a steady stream of steam, you wait for 10 minutes. Then you put on your pressure regulator. Then you have to wait for this to rattle. And it kind of sounds like that when it rattles. But you have to wait for it to rattle, then you start your time. Okay, that takes quite a while to have that happen. Then, once it's done, you turn off the heat and wait. It usually takes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes for the pressure to go down. Okay? Wait for the pressure to go down all the way. Once the pressure is down and you have a hot pad, you take off this and you wait a couple minutes, then you open it. Okay? So it takes a long time to do pressure canning. But the result is shelf-stable meals. Shelf-stable full meals or proteins or vegetables. And it is valuable. So the other thing about pressure canning that you need to know is pressure canning, you are going to be in the kitchen. You are not going to leave the kitchen. You can go in the next room with your ear open for sure, but you're not going to be leaving the kitchen because you don't want the pressure to change to either drop below the recommended pressure or go above the recommended pressure. When you are pressure canning, you are going to be in the kitchen. You're going to be in the kitchen the whole entire time. You can go in the next room and listen very quickly, but then come back, okay? You're going to be in there because if you pressure can, let's say you have your jiggler on and you're pressure canning at 10 pounds per pressure, 10 pounds of pressure, then that 10 pounds of pressure should stay at 10 pounds of pressure. And it should stay because this should steam and it should let this extra steam out. However, if it heats up too much and the steam is, and the jiggler can't keep up, that's going to get overpressured, which can cause some issues with siphoning and sealing jars and all that. If it's under pressure, you get to start all over again. So follow your manufacturer's guidance on, one, how much water goes in the bottom. So in mine, it's going to be a couple inches. Some of them recommend so many quarts. Some of them have a line on the inside. So recommend that. And then also how many times this pressure weight should jiggle in a minute. So those are things that you need to pay attention for your own canner that you have. And if you don't have the manual anymore, you can look all of them up online. Something else to know about pressure canners. I think they work best with gas. I have a gas stove. It works good. I can adjust something and it's going to adjust. You know, it's going to be pretty immediate. But there are some people that have glass top stoves and things of that nature. You need to check with your manufacturer of that, of your stove to see if it will hold this much weight for that long. So again, these are long sessions. It's a lot of weight on that stovetop. So that's going to be something you want to check out and know probably before you buy one, unless you're going to do, you know, another setup with, you know, a outside stove or something. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it was informational. I hope it wasn't too sporadic. And our next video, we're actually going to get into the kitchen and can something with this pressure canner. And I'll show you exactly what the steps are to do that, and it will be nice and easy, and you'll be able to get it done in your own kitchen. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and send it on to a friend so they can learn about pressure canning. And if you're not subscribed already, please hit the subscribe and hit the bell notification, because then you'll get all of the content if you click all notifications. And I want you to have all the content. We're going to have at least one more video in this series, and we're going to have lots of videos for the channel that are both canning and non-canning related. So I hope you'll join me for all those videos. And again, if we have questions about this, I do have a live chat every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and we can talk as a community about canning. All right. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.